Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason. I'm speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. In this episode, I'm continuing my list of 100 favorite albums of all time. I'm down to number 57 on the list, and number 57 for me is an album called Flaming Pie by Sir Paul McCartney. Came out in 1997, his 10th studio album. Of course, I'm a huge Paul McCartney fan. Huge Beatles fan. And I remember this coming out. Of course, I feel like after the Beatles, in the 70s and into the 80s, was definitely like his prime solo career, where he was coming out a lot of hits and they were on the radio and his albums were, doing really well. His singles were doing really well, and he was very relevant. I mean, obviously, Paul McCartney's always going to be huge anytime he comes out with an album because he's probably the biggest superstar of all time right now. Or always will be till he dies, I think. And so I remember, I wasn't totally aware of Paul McCartney's solo work. Of course, I was a huge Beatles fan. And then I kind of slowly heard Paul's solo stuff. And I would say I really didn't really get into Paul's solo stuff until... I did... Actually, I would say, starting with this album, I was like... Of course, I love this album, Flaming Pie, and I feel like every album after this album, I definitely was like, I gotta listen to the next album because, I thought Paul McCartney was so great. The albums before Flaming Pie, I wasn't really that aware of or really didn't know much about. I think I knew probably he had an album called Band on the Run because he had a hit song, Band on the Run, which was really good. I don't know. I say maybe it was around this time I started kind of getting more into Paul McCartney's solo work. And I bought his live, maybe it was early 2000s. I bought this live Paul McCartney album back in the U.S. or something like that, or the U.S. tour they did at the time. And it was a really great live album. And that's where I heard a lot of songs that I didn't recognize and that were from his solo work from the 70s, 80s period that I wouldn't... didn't really know a lot about. And then, of course, when I saw Paul McCartney live, I want to say back in 2017, 2018, I saw him in concert, and of course, it was so exciting to see him in concerts. Biggest concert of my life, one of the biggest moments of my life, getting to see him. My favorite musician of all time. And then I remember going on iTunes and looking up more stuff, and then, of course, in the last year or two, I got Spotify, and then I was able to listen to all of his albums, and it was fun getting to listen to just more and more Paul McCartney and all that. So I remember when Paul McCartney coming out with this album, I was kind of 97, I was 13 or 14. And I remember the last album I really remember was Off the Ground. I remember listening to that album. My sister got that on cassette tape. And I remember listening to that album, and that was the last one I remember, Paul McCartney. And so it felt like a long time. I think he did some other albums in between, but he did some albums in between, but I didn't really, get into those. But Flaming Pie came out, and I don't know if my sister bought it or something. And I remember kind of surprised almost, like Paul McCartney came out with another album, because I just thought maybe Paul McCartney was not doing solo work anymore. Like he was kind of past his prime of making hit songs and so forth. And there comes a point in anybody's career, I think, where you're just not as relevant. Your songs aren't on the radio anymore. Even someone like Paul McCartney, who's so great, and the songs on this album are so great, they should be on the radio, but I never heard them on the radio, which is kind of sad. But it's just at some point, the record company, the DJs, the music industry, some reason just decide, oh, we're not going to play songs from these people because they're just too old. They want new stuff, and so they're putting out new artists, new albums, new songs that are more current to that time period. And then, unfortunately, people like Paul McCartney kind of not fade away, but you just don't hear the music anymore on the radio. And so I remember this album coming out, and I was kind of surprised, wow, Paul McCartney's still making albums. That's incredible. And I suppose, he was not real old at this point. I don't know if he's still in his 50s at this point. and here he is, almost 80 years old, and he just came out with an album, McCartney 3, this last year. So, I mean, every time Paul McCartney comes out with an album, I think, oh, this is probably his last album, because surely it's getting harder and harder for him. He's getting older, trying to come up and doing touring must be harder. But no, I saw him in concert at age, 70, 75 or whatever he was, and he did a 3-hour concert and didn't take a break. So I'm like, never mind, he can go on forever, it seems like. But this album came out, and my sister put it in, or I borrowed it or something like that to listen to it, and I was totally blown away by it. Like, I just couldn't believe how good this album was, and I was like, wow, Paul is still the greatest singer-songwriter of all time. And even 1997 coming out with this album, it's like he can still do better than anybody else. And so that was my feeling. So I've always loved this album. Always had a lot of good feelings about this album, because it kind of was like, wow, Paul McCartney's never going away, and just totally, sparked that love I have for McCartney and the Beatles. It went number 2 in the UK and US, so it did well chart-wise as far as album goes. None of the singles did any charting. Like I said, you just at some point I don't know, no matter how good you are, you just can't chart anymore, and that's kind of the way it is for him. The only real trivia I got from it was that he kind of took a little bit of a break because he was helping out with the Beatles anthology series that came out, I think around 95 or so, that came out on TV, and then of course now I got him on DVD, and that was an incredible documentary, like the greatest documentary ever, covering the Beatles. And so of course he spent a lot of time doing interviews, and and they also came with a book and 3 CDs, and so there's a lot. That was a big part of his life at that point, the anthology series. So it was after that, I think, kind of almost reinvigorated him, to write another album or write some songs and come out with another album. So it feels like this is a really great period for Paul McCartney. I mean, the Beatles anthology was a huge, huge hit, and then he came out with Flame Pie, which, like I said, it's one of my favorite Paul McCartney albums, and it's coming out in 1997. So yeah, he was doing just incredible work at this point. And like I said, it's funny how like some of my favorite stuff from him has come out when he's in his 50s, 60s, and 70s, even better than some of the stuff that came out when he was in his 30s or 40s. So, I mean, it's just incredible how much work. I don't know if there's any artist that is coming out with such good work at an age that like Paul McCartney is. I mean, just incredible. Better than most anything that's coming out today, for sure. Anyway, so yeah, I love Flame Pie. My top 3. So many good songs on here. It's kind of hard to even come up with top 3. So many songs to talk about. But some songs that didn't make it on here was Some Days, Young Boy, Flaming Pie, and Heaven on Sunday. All excellent songs. Flaming Pie was a really, really good upbeat rock song. Flaming Pie comes from actually John Lennon. When they asked, how do you come up with the name The Beatles? John came up with this, story, not real, that he had if he had a dream or something like that, and a man on a flaming pie told him that they are going to be called the Beatles with an A, or whatever. It's just a silly story that John told, to come up with something about why they came up with the Beatles. Anyway, so that's why it's called Flaming Pie. It's kind of a funny name for an album or for a song. You're like, Flaming Pie, what is that? But it has a good history to it, which I enjoy, and it's a really fun song. Most of the songs on here, I'd say, are more slow pop songs. A lot of acoustic work in here that I really love. Yeah, not a lot of. There's a couple rock songs on here, but I think at this point, Paul McCartney's better at just more acoustic guitar work, I think, and piano work is just really excellent. So my top 3, number 3, I got Little Willow. Just a really nice sounding song. Very beautiful song, I should say. And lyrically, it's great. It's kind of singing to a little willow, like a willow tree. And kind of like, the rain is hitting you, the wind is hitting you. It's like you're going through hard times, but you're still staying up. It's destroying you. And it feels like an analogy for like, someone in real life who's having hard times, and standing strong. Anyway, so yeah, just really beautiful, beautiful song. Little Willow. Number 2, I got The Song We Were Singing, which is like the first song on the album. And I remember, like I said, I can still remember to this day, just the first time listening to this album, and the very first song, the song we were singing, just blew me away how good it was. I was like, man, this is like one of the best songs I've ever heard. Like, this is incredible. And this is the first song on the album. Like, man, this album, makes you excited for the whole album. And it's a really nice acoustic. I'm gonna say it's about all these songs, but I just love the acoustic guitar work on this song as well. And it's kind of a song reminiscing about like being around with friends and family. And it's a song we were singing, at any particular time. I'm just thinking of some of the lyrics in my head, but it's kind of a good, nice reminiscing song of the past and being with friends and family, and just and I love the contrast of it's kind of soft, and then when it gets to the chorus, it kind of crescendos and gets louder, and just hits you, and you're like, wow, that's so amazing. Love the sound of that. Anyway, so that's number two. Number one of my favorite songs from him of all time is Calico Skies. And mostly it's that acoustic guitar work. It's just amazing. A lot, he said, I think maybe he said it, or I know I heard people saying in interviews, it reminds you of Blackbird, the picking style of it. So it has kind of a Blackbird sound to it, which I love. Blackbird, one of my favorite Beatles songs. And so it has that, the picking is just amazing. I love the whole picking of it. The main melody of it is just it's so beautiful. I love the lyrics, just this wonderful love song, one of the best love songs he's written. I want to hold you for as long as you like. I want to love you for the rest of my life. I mean, simple, but just really, really good lyrics for a love song. And definitely top 10 favorite song from Paul McCartney, which is amazing at this. He's had so many amazing songs up to this point, and for him to still come out with songs that are just some of the best I've ever heard is just amazing. Anyway, so Calico Skies, just you have to listen to that song. It's so good. So that's my top three from this album. Definitely got it. If you like Paul McCartney, it's definitely should be one of your top albums, I think, of anybody's list, Flaming Pie. And so that's my number 57 on my list of 100 favorite albums. So thank you for watching and for liking, and comment. What do you think about this album? What do you think it is amongst Paul McCartney's best work? I'd like to hear. And just thank you to all the subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you, and have a good day.